Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Join Terri with Tracer Rounds every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern to hear interviews with veteran artists, veteran business owners, and businesses that support veterans. Catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and MB Radio. If you miss a show, you can listen again on Reefs Across America Radio every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Tune in to see if you are on target. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
And welcome back to the Trace Around Show. You're on Military Broadcast Radio, where we're giving veterans a voice. And tonight's voice is to Edwardo Javier Guitron. Welcome, Javier.
Hey, thank you for having me, Terry.
So excited to have you tonight. I read through your bio, and I know that you were in the Army for 22 and a half years, and all of that was active duty, right?
Correct.
And you were first assigned to the 82nd. Can you tell us a little bit about your military service and why you decided to join in the first place? You joined in 2001. Is that correct?
I did.
Yeah. So why did you decide to join? What was it that drew you to the military?
Well, no different from many children. And I was 17 when I joined, so I said I was a child. I was still a teenager in my mind for a few years. I was from a small town named Modesto, California. Very humble beginnings. My parents are immigrants, so they wanted me to go to college and stay around the area, maybe be a police officer and, raise a family and be around them. Like most Mexican or immigrant families want. They just want all their kids around them at all times. So that wasn't really me. I didn't envision that for myself. So I felt like I needed to leave. And how I joined the Army was, I think it was after my last water polo game, I got a phone call from a recruiter out of nowhere. And they said, "Hey, is this Edwardo Guitron?" I'm like, "Yeah, how you doing?" "Hi, what are you doing after high school?" I was like, maybe go to junior college, maybe play water polo some more, maybe jump out of a few planes. I don't know, some things I wanted to do. And then he goes, and I'm 16, mind you, at this time. And I said, so he goes, "Want to be an airborne ranger?" I was like, "What do? They jump out of planes." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And then he confirmed my birthday. He was like, "Wait a minute, you're 16? I was like, "Yeah. I can't talk to you until you turn 17 in November. So go ahead and talk to me after you turn 17. And I was like, "Sure, I'll call you, I guess." And me being the loyal person that I was, or am within reason, I give him a call after I turned 17. It was around December, actually. And I told him, "Hey, you asked me to call you back, so I called you." And from there, I depped in January 26, 2001. And then I shipped off on August 2nd, 2001 to basic training.
So where did you take your basic training at?
Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
Fort. Let's see. So they changed the name, didn't they? It's a
It's it's back to Benning now.
Is it? Okay.
It's not, so what they did with all the naming conventions, they changed it back to the same name, but just a different person with the same last name of that fort.
Oh,
So,
that makes sense. Yeah, I
mhm.
think I did see that because Fort Hood was Fort Cavazos, and then they changed it back to Hood. So yes, and then Fort Bragg, same way. They changed it to Fort Freedom or something, and then they changed it back to Fort Bragg.
I've always known it as Fort Bragg, and in the small interim years, it was called Fort whatever it was. I refuse to say the name. I always called it Fort Bragg, and even as a contractor, some of the people would be like, "Hey, it's called this now." No, it's Fort Bragg to me. I went to pre-ranger there. I went to the Q course there. It is Fort Bragg. It has always been Fort Bragg. It will always be Fort Bragg, no matter what they change it to.
I mean, I think that's ingrained, so I think it would stick. It sticks with me because I spent some time at Fort Bragg too. So I was there for like 5 months, and I was like, it's Fort Bragg. I don't care whatever else they call it, but it is Fort
Mhm.
Bragg.
Yeah.
I have to agree. So, what was the 82nd like? What was it like being an airborne ranger? Did you find that interesting? Is it what you thought it would be? Like, what was the most exciting thing that you remember from that time?
First, I did not show up an airborne ranger, and I think your audience would know a distinction. I went to ranger school when I was in the 82nd. I just went to ranger school, so I was just ranger qualified. I was never a ranger battalion. And there's a huge distinction, and there's a very big difference between a soldier who grew up in ranger battalion, went to ranger school there, and a soldier from the 82nd who just went to ranger school and became a team leader and squad leader and went up the ranks. So I just showed up as a private coming out of airborne school to the 82nd. And it actually took me twice to do ranger school. First time I broke my tibia.
Oh no.
Second time I went back about 9 months later, and I made it straight through, and I got lucky. And that's how I went to ranger school. And I went the first time 2004. I'd already deployed twice by then. And then the second time was in 2005. I went in March and I finished in May. And yeah, and then afterwards deployed for 15 months. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
And so then you went to the Q course too. So you went from being in the 82nd to trying out, and we were talking a little bit before the show, and you kind of mentioned you kind of got tricked into going and doing it, and then the person kind of backed out on you. Can you tell us about that? That's an interesting story.
It is. And this is where, your mother would ask, if your friends jump out of a plane, would you jump out too? I was like, yeah, Mom, I would.
Exactly.
And I was that kid. I'm still that guy to a point. I mean, I have a kid now, so I'm not as silly as I was back then, but I was actually stationed in Fort Meade because after that 15-month deployment in the 82nd, I re-enlisted to go somewhere else because I was just very much done. Friends are dead, a lot of people injured, everyone was going out to every direction, everyone I grew up with were gone, so I didn't want to be there. So I re-enlisted, weirdly enough, to go to a place that I've never heard of in Fort Meade. And then from there, that's when I went to a few schools, and one of these schools, BNOC, now it's called ALC,
Right.
but I met Tim there, and Tim was in my small group, and then we kept in touch. And then he's like, hey, let's play Call of Duty sometime. I'm like, sure. That's when I used to play video games, and you'll understand why I don't play them anymore after this. So he came down to Quantico in Virginia because he was doing some training out in Quantico, and I drove 2 hours to go and see him. And again, he was my drinking friend, right? So we drank that night, talked about life, talked about where we want to go. I told him, hey, man, I'm getting out of the Army next year. I'm really ready to get out. And I told him, yeah, I was probably going to go to college and stay around the Maryland area at the time. And then, crashed down his couch in the hotel room. I woke up, said, hey, man, I got to drive back. See you later, because it was Sunday and going to work the next day. And he goes, hey, Javi, can you come back? I'm like, and come right back in the hotel room. And he goes, I need to ask you a question. I'm like, what's that? Would you go to selection with me? And I said, well, which one? PsyOps, Civil Affairs, SF. He goes, SF. I'm like, cool. When do you want to go? October. This is May when he asked me. So I said, sure, I'll go with you. And, I talked to the SF recruiter and said, hey, I'd like to go in October. Okay, cool. Get your physical in. I already got a physical in, and I was set for October, and I was training up. I wasn't really training too hard because I was already sort of in shape anyway. So that's why I was like, sure, I'll go. I didn't care.
Right.
And October, I show up, and I'm around in the reception area in Fort Bragg. I don't see Tim. Then we get out to Camp McCall. I don't see Tim in any of the tents. Back in the day, we did it in tents. And then after the PT test, all those people they called out and that didn't pass, he wasn't around. So I'm like, maybe he got sick. Maybe life happened, whatever. But I'd already promised myself by then. I already voluntarily withdrew from one thing in my military career, and I promised myself I would never do it again. I'd literally much rather self-delete than ever have that shame. Even though my heart really wasn't into doing that thing, I voluntarily withdrew. It's still that pain as a man, as a soldier, the ego, the pride that we have that draws us to go to the next level in anything. That still hurts. It hurts a lot. And I didn't realize how bad it hurt until I did it. And I realized I will never do it again. And I mean, ever. So sure enough, I show up here. I finished the PT test and selection. I think there's from 400, it went down to like maybe 330. It was a lot of people that failed, I remember. And then from there, I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm not going to stop until I'm hurt or I'm finished. That's where I'm going to go. And I finish it. I get selected. I get my phone back. I call Tim. I'm like, hey, Tim, are you good? I was like, yeah, why? What's up? Well, you asked me to go to selection with you. You're not here. I just got selected. I just want to make sure you're okay. And he hangs up the phone. I text him and no answer. And I was like, you know what? I'm hungry. My feet hurt. That's like tomorrow problems. I didn't care. So I ate a lot of food in Fayetteville that day, and then get the next plane trip the next day going back, turn on PlayStation 3 network. I see my gamer tag with him, deleted and blocked. I can't re-add him. So he blocks me from PlayStation Network and the gamer tag to add on. And I'm like, really, dude? You blocked me off of my phone, and then you blocked me off of this? You asked me to go with you. What's going on here? And that's literally, and I was still going to get out of the Army then. And then I had some good mentors in Fort Meade that convinced me, saying, listen, you have an opportunity here. You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. And I told him, you're right. I want to get out, maybe go National Guard SF, but I don't want to do this anymore. And then one of them spoke some sense into me, and he convinced me multiple times too. He did not stop, and he convinced me to stay. And I did. Finished the Q course in 2012 in April. And then I got to 7th group in June 2012.
So how was the Q course? Did you find it hard, or was it hard just because of lack of sleep, or just because you were dependent on people? How did you find the course?
The Q course, it's not hard, but it's easy to get kicked out. And let me explain that. Let me deep dive into that. You're in a people-centric career field at this point. Words have meaning, image projection has meaning. So you can have the best intentions, but if an instructor sees that you look like you don't want to be there, they take notes. And I will say this so that people could understand and conceptualize. Us as Green Berets, sometimes we act petty. And if you don't like a guy, they would kind of, and I've seen them do this. This is where I'm like, they literally just teamed up against a guy that's actually a good person, but maybe he didn't really have the look to a certain instructor, and then they would somehow pick on him to a point where he would be gone. I'm like, okay, cool. That wasn't me. Luckily, I knew how to play the part, but if you go ahead and have a bad day in front of the wrong person, it could really be detrimental for the rest of the Q course. It could follow you. That's just how it is. And that's the community. Commercials would never say it, but if you don't act the part, if you don't get along to go in, and they want you to have a certain image projection and demeanor, professionalism, obviously not look horrible in uniform, and perform at all times and never embarrass yourself or embarrass your team. If you look like you're doing the bare minimum, that's where they catch you. Because, and I'll say this example. We had a release run one time, and our instructor says, hey, just don't fall behind me. For you guys, just go ahead and go. So we just sprinted off. And that's when I used to be a gazelle. So I finished second, and I'm very, very disappointed because it was between me and my buddy, Scott. He was just always super fast, but at times I would beat him. And then I'm breathing hard. I'm like, you beat me this time. And then we're waiting for everyone to come back. The instructor is in front of like a gaggle of about like 11, 12 people.
Mhm.
And then he goes, for you guys that went ahead and did your best, I will never look at you for the rest of the Q course. In fact, I'm not worried about you. I don't have to ever think about you shortchanging me. For you guys that went ahead and just stayed right above me, right ahead of me for about 10 feet, I will look at you for the rest of the time and I will find something wrong with you and I will kick you out.
Oh, wow.
But do you understand where that makes sense? Because
Right.
why would you want people to do the bare minimum to be
Right.
out there when no one is watching you? You're supposed to do the right thing. You given an intent, you develop the task and purpose. If you're out there doing what you're not supposed to do when no one's looking, do you want that person on the team with you?
Right.
I mean, you get what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
made sense to me. At first, I'm just like, that's kind of off. But then as I was going back to class that day, I told Scott, I was like, you know what? I'm glad Sergeant Coleman said that. I really am. I'm glad he said that. It kind of like valued us and realized I don't have to look at you guys anymore. Just don't get hurt. Don't do something stupid. You guys are going to be Green Berets someday. But these other guys, I'm watching them.
Right. Well, I mean, that makes sense because if somebody's just barely squeaking by, the chances of them really being there and being engaged when it matters, it's iffy. And if you know someone's really performing and really going above and beyond, you know that when it gets tough or, when things kick off, they're going to be there, they're going to be ready, and they're going to be in it to win it. So.
Correct. So that was just one example, right? And it could seem cruel to some people, but that was probably one time I believed in that system. I'm like, yep, I'm glad they did that and you know what? Some of those guys that were the bare minimum, they got kicked out when they got to SF, they got kicked out. Like they're out of the Army, got kicked out of the Army kind of thing. So again, sometimes it works. Sometimes that does work. So.
Well, they always say that you want to teach somebody to fish, you don't want to give them the fish. And so if you're always like leading them by the hand because they're like, well, what am I doing now? And what's next? And like they're, always fishing for stuff and you're always feeding them, they're not learning to survive on their own. And you're going to spend a 20-year career leading them by the hand. And you don't want to do that either. You want them to be self-sufficient. You want them to be doing, the job, and they know, and you can move on and get the mission done. So it is a very tightrope or a balance you have to do between like giving them stuff and then not giving them too much, because you don't want to spend a whole 20-year career like spoon feeding somebody.
No, that's correct. And from there, graduate. Actually, in my graduation, Ross Perot, he was the guest speaker, so he gave me my Green Beret.
Oh, wow.
On my graduation, yeah. So that was
pretty cool.
It
Yeah.
was. So, but that ended that, and then, you're always in any specialized unit. Just because you make it, you never really make it, and you can't be complacent. So this is where I told you, those guys, once they made it, those 3 guys I told you about, they were very complacent when they got to their groups, and they got kicked out for a few different reasons. But just because you make something doesn't mean it ends there. Like, you have to prove yourself constantly. And I will say that is a stress in the soft community. We're all competitive with each other, hyper competitive with each other. Sometimes people are competitive in the wrong way. I won't get into that here though. And I do agree though, you have to have that competitiveness to stay relevant. And if you're not really relevant, then you're not really needed. That's my opinion though, but I'm pretty sure other people share that opinion when it comes to those specialized units. You have to want to be there every day. You do. And I will tell you, there was days I did not want to be there. I was just kind of burnt out. We all have tracer burnout, and it's at times they would say, hey, go here for a little bit, kind of like cool off, or you got injured. Hey, go there, get better. And when you get injured, sometimes they forget about you. So now you got to like fight for yourself again to stay relevant. And that in itself, that's on me. You know, in the big army, you have always people kind of managing you, kind of like looking after you. Sometimes you're in places where you just get lost and people forget about you. And that's where it gets a little dangerous in the sense of what are you going to do? Are you going to do something to get yourself back into the fight? Or have you seen enough where you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna be an asset however I can be an asset. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So
Right.
Around the 15-year mark, to me, in service, I felt that I've seen enough. And I started buying houses, started buying real estate because you got to think I was deployed all those times in the big army. I never told anybody, but I obviously saved my money. I invested it and then started buying houses around the Eglin Air Force Base, Florida area.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I got enough to where I can say no. And I have used it now that I'm out, and I'm going to jump around a bit. Now that I'm out of the military, I don't have to work and it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
I don't. And I only did that only because I wanted the choice of saying no. A lot of my friends that get out, or people that I've known that got out, they had no choice. They had to work because they didn't really have a plan. They did not do any planning to get out. 2 years isn't enough. So realistically speaking, I was planning to get out almost 7 years out, you know,
Wow.
and in my mind, I didn't know I was going to stay in 22 years either, but I thought I was going to stay until 20. Just COVID happened. So I stayed in a few extra years. So
Right.
I was literally, and this is where it's dangerous, and I'm going to be very hypocritical. I was slightly checked out around 15-year mark, and there's other people I know that are like this. I will never call them out, but I get it. And it's if there's not really anything going on, or you kind of see like a little lull in what we're doing. I had to do something for me. I also wanted that choice to say no when I'm out, and a lot of the guys that get out without having that time to prep, they can't say no. They have
Right.
to. And it's a horrible feeling. And there's people that are out now, they get out, no plan. Me, and mind you, I yell at them. I yell at them as friends because I love them. And I'm like, you telling me you had no plan getting out? You have no job, you have no degree. What is your problem? Like, I am like berating them as friends. Friends need to do that to each other. If you love your friends, you love your sister, you love anyone, it's okay to be tough on them because they
Yeah.
need to understand the outside world. They don't care when you're out. They don't care what you did. They don't care if you were a sergeant major. They don't care if you're a Green Beret. They
Right.
really don't. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is results and what you can do for them, and can your experiences match with them. And I'm going to give you an example. I was given a job interview. They said minimum qualifications for this project management position, bachelor's degree, and any other managerial services. So I'm like, well, pretty much did program management, while I was, an NCO or a Green Beret, especially. And then the interview, and then the guy comes in afterwards. We're like, hey, all you guys that interviewed, we like all of you, but the stakeholders decided we're just going to take people with master's degrees. Me being argumentative how I am, I talked to the guy off, just on the
Yeah.
side. I'm like, you told me on this, everyone, minimum bachelor's degree to be considered to this. Yes, minimum. But the stakeholders decided that he just wants people with master's degrees. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I don't like being told no that way, especially, and it almost felt like I failed. So because of that, I got a master's degree because of that. So I'm just like, F everything. I will never have anyone tell me no, I can't do it because I was missing a degree. No, I purposely got out of the military wanting to make sure I had a bachelor's degree because I was told by my mentors that are in and out, hey, don't leave without your bachelor's degree. I wish they had told me, don't leave without your master's degree. And one of the contracts I do now, I'm an instructor for the Army. Actually, I'm still a contractor for the Army to a certain capacity. I was in Germany recently. I just got back about 4 weeks ago, and I'm telling these soldiers in Germany in Grafenwehr, and I was just like, hey, do you guys start or even have a degree? No. I was like, you want me to give you some advice? Don't get out of the Army without a master's degree. I was like, why a master's? Then I told them what happened. I'm like, oh, really? I was like, really? They don't care? They don't care you were an artilleryman? They don't care that you were a petroleum specialist? You think they care? They don't. They care what you have on that piece of paper that matches them. If they got a master's degree, they want you to have a master's degree.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
True.
And then they didn't really think about that. And then I tell some of these kids, because I always see them coming in and out, I got to turn in my phone every day. anytime I go and cross that little hut, and I BS with them. And I actually enjoy talking to some of these kids. I was bullying them into getting the degree. I was just like, anytime you talk to me, if you're not talking about what classes you're going to take, I'm going to make fun of you. And I honestly, I was like, go ahead, tell on me. You really think I need this job? Go ahead. They can fire me for hazing you. But if you're not doing this, you're a silly, silly person.
Right.
Obviously, I'm changing my words. I said other choice words, which I will not say on here. But I was bullying these kids, and some of them actually took it. It was actually kind of cool. They're like, hey, no one's really spoke to me that way. Not even our NCO. I was like, yeah, because I'm pretty sure they don't have degrees either. Because I probably didn't at their age either, but
Right.
I don't like to see other kids, like the amount of time when I see an 18, 19-year-old now in the military, I was like, you guys have so much time to do so much if you wanted to. You can monetize your time, get a second job without them knowing. That's what I did. Not saying they should do it, but I did it because, it got me to where I needed to go fiscally, where I'm at now.
Right.
But there's other ways they can monetize their time, whether through education, learning a trade, a skill for them to better themselves when they get out. Again, primarily, your whole sole purpose being in the Army is to be in the Army, but you're not always going to be engaged. We have that lull time. We're always going to have, well, we're off on the weekend, or hey, we got off early on this Thursday. What could I do with this time to fit in? Do I go and drink with the boys, or do I do something for myself secretly and not tell anybody? So, yeah.
That's really good advice, because a lot of them aren't preparing for what's next. And that is the key, is to prepare for what's next. So you're always looking 5 to 10 years down the road, like, what do I need to be successful? And so I really have to applaud you for really looking at it and seeing that, you needed to do something so that when you got out, you had something that you could fall back on, that would support you, that, helped shape what you were going to do next. So that's very forward thinking on your part. And that's really great that you're mentoring the younger soldiers, because I don't think enough of that goes on. And it needs to, because, some kids aren't getting mentored in home, like on a civilian job I work for, we'd have people come in and apply for a fire job. So being a firefighter, and they have never mowed a lawn. They have never cleaned a house. They don't know anything about doing anything around a building, so if you're living at the firehouse, you have to maintain the firehouse. So they know nothing about that. And then the most exercise that goes on is the fingers on the gamepad. So,
Right.
They're very strong when it comes to the gamepad, and they know all about it. But when you're asking them to do a 2-mile run, when you're asking them to perform some kind of physical activity, they're like, oh, wow, like I wasn't expecting that. So they're really not, enough of them aren't getting engaged in knowing what chores and what what you need to have in your toolkit to be successful when you're trying for a career.
You're correct. And they don't know what they don't know. And again, you say mentor, to actually soldiers in active duty, I bully them. That's the best way. You say mentor, but I playfully bully them. I build them up. There's building up bullying, and then there's just being a straight up Richard when you're bullying them. Notice I
Just
said
being
Richard.
mean, right?
Well, I say Richard instead of the other word because I don't want to not be on anything else. So when you're being that kind of bully, that just serves no purposes. But again, how I do it now, I'm a little older. I bully with intent. I'm like, if I'm bullying you, it's probably because I sort of like you, and
Right.
maybe you should do better before time runs out and you're 40 and you're out someday realizing, wow, I don't have that time equity I used to have. Yeah, exactly. You don't, because you messed it up. So
Yeah, some advice that I'd gotten from a chief, he'd said, don't make your identity your job, because if you make your identity all about your job, then when you aren't in that job anymore, then you don't know what to do. You don't know who you are. You don't know how to interact, because your whole identity is wrapped up in that role that you had. So if that's the only thing you're focusing on, then you've got a problem. Because he said, don't just associate with people in your work group. Make sure you have friends outside, because you need to have some outside influences and some outside networking, so that when you go to do things like what you're doing, you have an ability to talk to those people and understand that culture, and not just the culture you're in currently.
You're correct. And it's funny, not even funny, it's intentional when you said go outside of your work group. Go meet people, right? There's a difference between networking and building relationship. And I learned this about 4 years ago. Networking is almost like, oh, hey, you're saying hi to somebody. Oh, I see him at the bar all the time. I see him at the coffee shop all the time. I see him going through the mortar pool all the time. That's saying hi to them. But then you have building relationships. That is intentional. That is, you've done, and not to sound like a sycophant here, but you want to value exchange with people. People who are, when you're out of the military, you want to be around people who have more money than you, who have more success than you. How you do it depends on what the value exchange is going to be. Most of the time, if you're going to be around wealthier people, high net worth, the best you can give them is the time. So because I'm working with a client right now. I mean, I'm not on right now, but I give them security and I give them peace of mind and time. They have the time where they can react and be peaceful, right? I give them time. That's the best thing you can do to anyone in the whole ultra high net worth. You give them time, you give them security. They're good with that. That's the value exchange. What I get in return is what contractually I get in return. So I would highly suggest, if you're going to, either while you're in or when you're out, intentionally build relationships. How you do it is on you, but you may want to practice while you're in how to do it efficiently. And how do you do that? What's the value exchange between me and a person that I know I can gain value from, they can gain value from me? Because why would someone more successful than me or higher rank than me want to hang out with me? I have to have some form of value exchange where I'm going to give them something, right? So there's saying hi to a person. Just because you made face with somebody doesn't mean anything. Because you know how they say it's all about who you know? No, it's about who knows you. Are they thinking about Terry to get this position or to get something that gives them a better opportunity? Are they thinking about you? That's the thing. It's how do they think about you? It's not who you know. You can know everyone, but you can say hi to everyone. You see them in the mortar pool, see them down the hall, see them in the coffee shop. Just because you know them doesn't mean they know you.
True.
And it's literally, it sounds a very sycophantish, but it very much is a value exchange between relationships. If you're going to go ahead and go to a certain level of success, you have to have a value exchange where they think about you and you bring them value. And I actually despised that way of thinking while I was in, but now that I'm out, I realize, you know what? I think I want to be rich. So I'm going to go to law school now. I'm going to go to law school and I'm going to build relationships intentionally with the right people. And I'm like, you know what? I want to feel how I want to live in a mansion now. I decided I want to do that by 50. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to intentionally do that.
So do you still buy houses, or do you still have those houses, or did you sell them? So how did you actually pick real estate as what you were going to do, and how did you become savvy in that market?
It sort of became by accident because, that time at 15 years, I hit a fork in the road, right? And just in life in general. And if it wasn't real estate, I had a neighbor. He's became my property manager and accountant for a bit. And well, he died because he was kind of old, unfortunately. But I was very upset one day. He came over to my house. I was next door neighbors with him. I was being very rude. And the next day I came over and I told him, I'm like, there was no excuse other than I shouldn't have talked to you that way. And I barely talked to you and I'm sorry. And then he's like, I knew you were having a bad day. I was like, how'd you know? I was like, I've been around. He's like 70. So I listened to him a bit. And then he asked me about houses and I was like, I hate houses. I bought a house in Maryland, and after everything tanked in 2008, I still own that house. I'm underwater in it. I hate it. And he goes, well, why don't you buy a house now here in Florida? I'm like, I don't want to because I'm still underwater in that house in Maryland. And I started buying houses. He convinced me I should buy one. So my first house, I bought it for like $136,000. That was the price on it. And then I went from that one to bought a whole bunch of others because I had, again, a lot of money saved up from deployments. And earlier in my career, I actually completely forgot. This is how, again, so oblivious I was because I just didn't care. I was so oblivious that after 2008, I started putting like $1,100 in mutual funds and an IRA. I totally forgot about it. Don't ask how I just forgot about it. I forgot about it. And all of a sudden that was 2008. So now it was around 2017. And I was like, oh, wow, I have like 400,000 in here. What happened? I had no idea.
Wow.
So, and that's when I started buying houses after
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
So that's another good point, is to put in investments like
Oh, yeah.
401s or 457s or IRAs or
Oh, yeah.
Roths or all that. Even just $50, $100, whatever you can spare or afford at the time. Even if you can't afford it, sometimes it's worth the effort to afford it, because like you say, you forget about it sometimes. I mean, I don't think you ever truly forget about it, but it's not ever present in your mind. You're thinking about other things, and then you go back to like, oh yeah, I have that account. I wonder what it's doing now. And then you check it out and you're like, wow, it's really doing good. Like, because some of those self-managed accounts, if you don't have to go in and make any changes, or you don't make changes because it's a guided account and they're making all the changes for you, then you can end up with a really nice nest egg. And so really that's good advice too for younger people, or even people my age or your age. It can still invest and still have 10 years to invest and still have come away with a decent pot of money into retirement.
I completely agree. Since it was busy into the war back then, I literally forgot about it. And I really do mean, I looked at it maybe once in 2000. While I was in the Q course, maybe I looked at it once while I was in the Q course, but I was just so busy, just working out, studying, eating right. I didn't really care. I just looked at it once. Then I didn't look at it again until 2017. Like, I'm dead serious. I just didn't. I did not care. I can't tell you enough. At the time, I didn't really care about money. I lived below my means anyway. Before I got married again, I was living with 2 other guys, and that's how I ended up being able to have all that money, because we BAH hacked. One of my friends, Ryan, he bought a house. So Chris and I took up rooms, and guess what? We helped pay his mortgage. And guess what I was doing? I was buying houses as I was living in his house. And then again, I'm a bully to my friends because I love them. So I told them, I'm like, hey, I have 6 houses. You 2 a-holes are going to have to buy a house or I'm leaving. And I forced them to buy. Chris bought 1 house, Ryan bought 2. And then I started buying houses again. Again, if you're my friend, if we're roommates, and I believe in you and I love you, I will bully you to success. That's just how I am. And I made him do it.
So they're probably thanking you about now.
They are, but I keep in contact with them as best I can.
Yeah.
They have their own lives now too, and I have mine. I'm traveling now, and I'm studying for an LSAT, coming this September. So I want to score the best I can there, and I have a son now. So a lot of changes with time allocation, that's for sure. So
Right. So what are you doing now? I mean, like, what is your day job? Are you doing
So-
physical security or?
well, it's multiple things. So I have done security consulting, both overseas and here as well. I am working for a client right now. Physical security is, sure, that's an element of it, but there's also an element of protective intelligence.
Yeah.
That's a fancy way of saying, hey, be a critical thinker. Who are the people around? Are they threats? Threat detection? With any family members. It's just or just people around in general. So it's not just, no offense to those mall cops, and they do a good job in the mall being a deterrent. But it's none of that. It's legitimately, it's a thinking person's game. What I do now, and given my background and mentoring in the executive protection realm, I've had some good mentors even in this realm. I'm always learning. So because of that, I mean, I'm able to do what I can. Obviously, my prior career in the military has helped with this position. But yes, I am doing security, but protective intelligence and security wrapped up into one. Counter surveillance, so it's a multitude of things. It can be, when it's boring, it's good. You never want it to be exciting, because then it puts them in danger, which is my whole sole purpose in life is to ensure when I'm on, and even when I'm off, I still think about clients. I'm like, hey, hopefully they're safe. but when I'm on, it's game time. It's their life, and you can't put a price on life. So their their safety is my concern, utmost concern.
So does it take you out of the country? Does it take you across the country? Do you usually stay in one place generally?
It varies between clients.
Yes.
But yes, to answer your question, it varies, and yes to all.
And so you said you're also contracting with the Army, and you were in Grafenwehr where they're doing training, because that's a big training place or post or base or whatever word you want to use, training ground in Germany. So do you do that too all the time, or is that just contract by contract, or how does that work?
So that's part-time on call. It's one of the best gigs you can get when you leave the military because they renew your clearance. So they only require me to go once a year with them. I already fulfilled my once a year obligation. Other times I couldn't go. I actually did want to go because it was either family obligations that I just couldn't say no to, or had an injury. Or had a VA appointment I couldn't miss. It'd be like reasons I couldn't go. I actually enjoy that contract. It pays the least. Again, I don't want to sound like a complete, gold digger, but when you're out, time is money. It pays the least. And again, I know how it sounds, but it pays the least, but I'm the youngest person on that contract. So what I get fulfillment out of it, besides interacting with soldiers at times, is these much wiser and experienced people. There's people there that are like 87 and they're still working. Wow. I get to ask them about life. And also a lot of these people stay on there because they know they keep saying, "No, this is my last rotation. This is my last rotation." And they keep saying that. But I would ask them and I'd call them out. I was like, you know what? Every rotation I've been on, no one has died. So how about this? Every rotation I go on, you need to go on, and don't stop going on them because you're going to die. These guys have the darkest humor ever. They're like 87 in their 80s and their 70s. They go along with it. And they're like, yeah, I think you're right. I'm probably going to stay here a little longer. I was like, maybe you should, because I want to see you die. And the thing is, we're talking about mortality here like it's a joke, but it's really it's blissful when I'm around them, because they like tell me, like, I have a son your age and I have a grandson your age. I'm like, wow, so I enjoy hearing their stories. And again, there's stuff I don't know about life. So I ask them all these questions because I don't know everything. And when I'm around them, I do speak a little better, well-mannered compared to some of the hooligans I'm around sometimes. And I feel fulfilled when I'm with them. And it's a good time. It really is. It's more good for the soul, and I enjoy it when I'm with them. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think they get a lot out of it too, because once you retire and you're not engaged in something meaningful, like training soldiers and being part of a machine again is very meaningful work and very validating, I guess I would say. So, it's good for them too. And like you said, and not to harp on the mortality thing, but when you slow down and stop and you stop doing things, that's when things happen, because if you're engaged and you're active and you're doing things and you're keeping your mind fresh and you're, constantly like looking for things and looking at operations and deciding which ways to go, you're really engaging all your senses. And that's so important to maintaining physical and mental health. And if you kind of stop doing those things, then that's when the decline sets in, I think.
You're correct. So I like it. It keeps them sharp, but also it's like a high school reunion for them every time.
Right.
And I told them, like, well, I'm the youngest guy here. I mean, it'd be cool if other people my age join, but like I'm the child to them, which is kind of cool. I haven't been the youngest guy to anything recently, but to them I am. Maybe that's one reason why I like going there. But it's a good feeling, and it's good people. And I like to bully kids in the Army when I'm there to make them do better. I'm like, what are you doing? So
Right. Just challenge them. I mean, I think that's
yeah,
what it's about, is challenging you to do better and be better and really think outside the box. You usually just think of your perimeter, just what you see
yeah.
visually and not anything outside that. And until you start looking outside and thinking, okay, well, what's outside this? What can I do? Where do I need to focus my energy or effort? So it's really great that you are doing that for them because they need that.
No, correct. And I'll tell you a story. When I was still a Green Beret, I actually helped people earn their Green Berets secretly. It's something I would broadcast. I didn't put it on Instagram. Again, I don't play that game. I can't tell you how so against it I am. But eventually I'm going to have to join that realm, but I don't like, I just don't like the imposters that's, for instance, I know there's people out there that are charging money to help people pass selection. And I'm like, I did it for free because people came to me. And then I only regret one of them because he's a Green Beret now and I do not like him. And that's like, it's one of those, dang, I helped make you. I shouldn't have helped you. I don't like you. And because of that, I never wanted to help people again, at least be a Green Beret. But I'm like teetering on the idea of, I would do it for free if somebody actually wanted to do it. I would help one more person one more time. I would fly out to where, because I have the money and I have the time, depending. I can fly out to wherever they're at, and I would be like, "You want to be a GB? Well, I can get a hotel. I could eat well. I could work out all the time. We can go in the woods. We can walk for 10 hours." Because that's how long the STAR course is. You're walking for 10 hours from night to day. Hopefully you don't get bit by a snake, fall in a hole and twist your knee, tear your ACL. You're going to walk into like many webs of spiders in the woods, and you're going to scream in the freaking woods to the top of your lungs because you have webs in your face. You want to go through I'll do all that. I don't care. But if there was a time, if I do decide to actually pull the trigger on this and actually aid someone in doing it, the sooner I want it more for them, I'm going home. Like, that's something I will not play.
Right.
Like the day I want it more for you, and the day you do less than me, and the day that you don't continuously start to outdo me, that's the day I leave. And so it would come with conditions if I ever decided to do that again, because I want to erase that one mark that I feel very guilty about, that I can't believe I helped this person become a Green Beret, and I despise that I did that every day. I almost want to erase that feeling and be like, I'll help somebody. But the second you meet those conditions that you don't meet my conditions, I'm out of here. You're on your own. So
Right. Yeah, you have to show up for yourself. And if you're not willing to show
Yeah.
up for yourself and put your full effort forward, then
Right.
there's no reason to help somebody that's not all in.
Completely agree. And yeah, it's just those are my conditions. It's a character thing for me. And again, you don't just go to selection because your drinking friend asks you to go. You go to be intentional. And what I did, I'm going to tell you right now, what I did, I went on a whim, but it worked out somehow. Okay. Life is funny. And this is where, if somebody asked me, describe your military career, funny, completely funny. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was just funny. Literally, it was funny because I did things. I found myself in positions that I'm like, how did I get here? Okay. Yeah, I should have had a better plan. I will tell you, I did not have a really good plan. I didn't. In the early years, I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was a kid. I thought I was going to get out and go back to Modesto. And then the longer I stayed in, obviously views changed, but I didn't have a good plan. And I'm trying to have a better plan now. And I think I have a pretty solid plan. But I hope other people know, when you get out, no one cares. And the only thing you have to do is produce results. But have things and have the ability to say no. And if you don't, find the ability to say no. Get there. I don't want to say the word, I guess I could say the word. If you feel enslaved, that's a problem. You should not feel that way. You should have the ability to literally make the world however you want it to make it, pragmatically. There's high
Right.
dreamers, there's dreaming, and then there's practical goals, right? But like I just told you, I don't know if it seems impractical, but I decided I want to live in a mansion by the time I'm 50. I think I'm gonna have to be a lawyer, a certain type of lawyer to do it. I'm going to go to law school, and I'm going to get there because I'm bored.
Well, that's a lofty goal, and I wish you all the luck there. What type of lawyer do you want to be?
Sports law and entertainment lawyer.
Oh, wow. Okay. That'll be an interesting one for sure.
I decided I want to take. Why would I take money from common folks like us? I'd rather get it from the high net worth who are going to need it. They're going to need the representation. And I'm already doing it from a protection standpoint. So why not doing it from a legal standpoint and trying to get them the most money they can on a contract, NIL, whatnot? Sure, let's do it. That's the way I see it. I think I'd rather do that than, God forbid, ever be a family lawyer. Family court is like the worst one, I think, in my opinion.
That would rip your heart out every time, I'm afraid. You'd have PTSD just from some of the cases you hear.
And you'd probably be demoralized, or just like you see people as like in a different view because you see it. You see kids, you see the whole process is just so horrible, and I think that would like callous my soul. So instead, I'd rather go to entertainment and sports, and I think that'd be my niche. So yeah.
I think that's a good lane. I think that's well thought out, and I think it's a good way to go. So, what do your parents think about you now? Now that you've done the Army thing, you've bought houses, because they were wanting you to come back and be a police officer. You said so. What are they thinking about your career path now?
My dad's proud of me. He's just he's a Mexican immigrant man who's just like, that's my boy, that's my boy. He did it. So he always brags about me, which is great,
Yeah.
And my mom, all she cares about, and she's glad that she has a grandson now, and she just wants me to be safe.
Yeah.
And I make calculated risks. I'm not gonna completely just BS you here. And I tell her sometimes whatever she needs to know, because some things don't need to be communicated. And that's the honest truth. You don't need to communicate everything to everyone or to anyone sometimes. And that's okay. You just don't have to lie to them, but you don't have to communicate everything to them. So
right. Yeah. Some things are better left unsaid.
Very much so.
Yeah. So we've got about 8 minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted to put out, or anything else you wanted to talk about that you wanted to leave with the audience and leave for them, food for thought type of comments or information?
Yeah. There's going to be times in the military and in your life where you're going to have this line, the red line, of morality, ethics, legal, illegal. And if you're going to cross that line, be sure you're able to explain it, if you're caught, to your peers, your kids, your chain of command, people that have stake in you. Be sure you're prepared to say why you did it. And if you can't, then don't do it.
Right.
So if you're going to do it for selfish reasons that doesn't help the mission, the task, the fluidity of the contract, or the fluidity of the team, guess what? Not worth doing it. Not worth it. So
true. Because you do walk a fine line sometimes, and you have to really decide whether it's worth it to do this or that, and you really have to put it in perspective with the people around you, and will it make sense to them, and will they be harmed by your decision? What does that look like when you're talking to your family later on? So you really do have to put it in that context in order to make the best decision, I think.
No, absolutely. And again, a lot of strange things coming up on social media now. Horrible influences out there. You are what you take in. If that's I call social media digital fentanyl now. It's like, it's strange what it's doing to kids.
Yeah.
It's so impressionable now. Like they tell kids you need to look this way. This weird thing called looks max, and I'm like, they're telling teenage kids, is saying it's okay to take tren and to take amphetamines to look a certain way just to get attraction from the opposite sex. It is insanity. That's the stuff these kids are completely ingesting. That's what's coming to their heads.
Yeah.
And I that's why I want to get out there now more more for my son, because I have a 4-year-old son. I don't know what content he's going to ingest when I'm not around. And, if he sees me on YouTube, he sees me on content someday, hey, that's dad. Oh, cool. I could be dead by then. I don't know. But he at least knows that dad wants a better life for him. Dad wants a better life for his friends. And the biggest flex out there is you bragging about your friends, you bragging about your sons. And I want to get as old as that 87-year-old man that I was on that contract with, because his kids still spend time with them. And that's what I want. That's the biggest flex in the life, is I want to be at that age and my son still wants to hang out with me. And that's ultimately my goal. So I got to do epic things. It doesn't stop when you're out. You got to keep going. So.
And so how do you transition when you go from where you were in the military doing 82nd Airborne, being Green Beret, and then you're outside and you're transitioning after you've been deployed several times? What does that mental health look like? How did you make that transition? Because I know that that's really a really rough road for some to really make that jump. What did you do to really get yourself in a good place?
I wasn't always in a good place.
Yeah.
That's the honest. So if anyone ever tells you, oh, hard determination, God, and all that, they're so full of crap. That helps, but guess what? You are never always going to be in a good place. We're human too. We're all fallible. So I will tell you now, you're going to have to go through some pain and a lot of uncertainty, and hopefully you have the right people around you. Solitude helps within reason, but if you have good people around you, sometimes your priest can't tell you, or your pastor can't tell you all the right things because he doesn't know your life. And most of the times you're going to have to go through those growing pains, and it's going to be horrible. But the thing is, I've had friends that survive deployments but somehow decide to self-delete. That is not the answer. And it's been happening recently. The worst thing out there is knowing that you had these phenomenal Americans, these phenomenal human beings, did impossible things sometimes, seemingly, or very courageous things, for them to end their story because they're having a few bad days or not reaching out. And here's the real honest truth about it. It doesn't help always to help talk to a counselor. Does it help to go to get a ibogaine journey? Yes, it does. I've had friends that has changed their lives, and it has improved their quality of life significantly, where I'm so glad that they're going to be in a good place.
Yeah.
There's therapeutics out there. Do they all know about it? Probably not. I've asked some friends in the big army about it. You guys know about ibogaine. Maybe you should think about doing this before you do what our friend just did recently. And I infer a lot of those things, and I'm very vocal about it amongst my group of friends, and even people I don't know or I meet along the way. I would tell them, hey, look into this. Hey, I got a number for you. This person, they'll tell you all about this. And it's not ever going to be easy. I sound cool right now, but I wasn't always this cool when I was going through it on, some things about 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago. Yeah. I didn't have these tattoos, but my good friends finally admitted to me, I'm like, hey, your face is kind of sunk in. You look like you haven't eaten in days. And, I did not look like this. And I was like losing my hair. It was crazy, and then I wasn't this put together. I looked older, and I'm 42, right? But I do have those. I had those bad days because I was going through things in life, and it's okay. You're gonna go through with it, but a temporary problem doesn't have to meet with a permanent solution, and that's my thing. It doesn't have to go that level. Alcohol is not the answer, that's for sure. But you gotta find something that works, and I think we owe it to ourselves. We do. And self-deleting, absolutely out of the question. I will bully a person so they don't self-delete. I will bully them. I will say, you're gonna live with me. I'm gonna bully you every day. We're gonna work out. We're gonna eat right. We're gonna eat freaking 5 eggs, for breakfast. We're gonna eat chicken. We're gonna eat freaking fruit. We're not gonna eat that bread stuff. We're not eat all that stuff that poisons you. And I will bully a person if need be, so they didn't self-delete. And I'm okay with that. So we have to bring back bullying, but the right way. Bullying with intent.
It's motivation. Yes, motivation.
I don't like motivation. I think it's more discipline. You got to bully with intent to make them disciplined.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great having you on. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I really learned a lot. And I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your guidance for all of us, not just the young new soldiers that are just learning, but some of us that are seasoned veterans that are learning too. So I really appreciate all the feedback on what we can do to make ourselves in a good space. And then, just really how we should look to the generation and mentor them as well. So I really appreciate your time.
One last thing, I'm gonna bully you if you're reading this or hearing this. If you don't have your master's degree by the time you're out of the military, I will bully you. I will find you.
I've got mine, so I'm good.
Well, good. Keep bullying people. Make sure they get theirs.
I will.
Keep it on.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we gave Javier his voice tonight, and you can give yours too. So just make sure that you're always looking to promote well-being amongst our ranks. That's what we really need right now.
And bully them into education.
That's right. So this is Trace Around signing off. Thank you.
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket. A reminder that you can weather the storm, and you're never alone.
Shirts are only $25, and proceeds support giving veterans a voice. MBR's mission to teach veterans how to podcast and videocast. Because when our vets are talking, they're not overthinking. They're not second-guessing. Together, we stop the 22 stigma. Grab your shirt today at mbradio.us and hit the shop. Or go directly to toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband. That's toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband.
Suit up, stand strong.
Remember, we're unduckable together.
You're built tougher than the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.